Your traditional MSP would keep the lights on, keep things running nice and securely, but what customers are asking from us now is to develop new capabilities.
For managed infrastructure service providers, the rapid digitalisation of business and the impact of an accelerated shift to cloud computing have created opportunities for growth. That's the view of industry leaders such as Arinco Principal Consultant Mitch Bagan, Brennan IT Managing Director Dave Stevens, and Mammoth Media Managing Director Adam Williams. But we start with Guy Coble, Managing Director at S5 Technology Group. This is the after effects of the shift to hybrid working are still driving customer needs.
I guess most recently has been hybrid working. We've seen a significant shift to hybrid work across all of our customers at varying degrees, and most of our customer base aren't really ready for that transition. So that's been a big driver over the last couple of years of trying to find solutions that will support their legacy environments and maintain security, but then allow them to have half their workforce or more out of the office. So that's been a significant driver. And as I mentioned before, the compliance, both regulatory and industry driven, there's a lot more focus on them maintaining their infrastructure. So keeping everything secure, patched, and evolving as new issues arise and they're made aware of different things that affect their industry or their type of organisation. At the time, it was quite full on at the start of the pandemic. Due to various reasons, a lot of our customers just were not set up at all for it. They could probably facilitate 10% of their workforce being remote. So there was a lot of factors that came into getting the users remote, and a lot of it revolved around having to use the existing infrastructure. So what they had at hand with what they could budget to upgrade in that financial year.
With customers gradually adjusting to the new reality of hybrid work, Coble says growth is being driven by a combination of back-to-basic requirements around responsibility and capability, but also by a shift to a more compliance-oriented mindset.
Responsiveness and capability is still key. A lot of customers want to know that when things break, that there's someone there to fix it. But there's a lot more focus now around infrastructure patching, maintenance, vulnerability management, making sure that the infrastructure is maintained, which is something that has seen a shift in the last couple of years. And compliance, most of our customers now have a lot more compliance requirements around their infrastructure. So they're working on risk management frameworks and incident response plans, and they need to know the state of their environment, and they're taking a much keener note of how things are operating.
And of course, security remains paramount, says Adam Williams, Managing Director, Mammoth Media.
So really what they're looking for is security, flexibility in terms of how they do things, and reliability in how they do it. So from a security perspective, at the start, it was, just ensuring that our network and our services were secure in terms of what we do and how we approach what we do. Then it became more important to be able to create private networks or virtual private networks. We've built in virtual private networks, the ability for them to create those on the fly via software. And then it became the ability to, they were like, okay, but we have this private network here in Sydney and this private network here in Brisbane, but we want them to exist in the same private network for the ease of their software to be able to do it. So then we created a national private network with a private backhaul so that we could then securely allow them to route data wherever they want around the country. So security has become increasingly important as they become aware of the amount of data leakage that's going on in lots of different companies.
Rapid digitalisation and the accelerating shift to cloud computing remain important drivers.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of customers over the past, 5 to 10 years have, traditionally they were on-premise hardware on site using data centers and whatnot. And with that came a lot of complexity, a lot of overhead, and a lot of reliance on your traditional MSP to keep those sites up and running and performing well. So some of the key trends we're seeing is that they're moving their workloads to the cloud. because it reduces the complexity in their running, and it reduces the cost as well. And furthermore, it increases the reliability of the platforms that they run. So they get better service to their customers, less outages, and they can also deploy new services with velocity on those platforms. So yeah, really a switch from your on-premise old school technologies to new school technologies that allow them to scale at pace. Obviously, COVID has sped up organisations undergoing those digital transformations. So you look at the retail sector, obviously they, a lot of sales from stores, a lot of brick and mortar sales, and they've had to pivot, move online, and really put a lot of effort and funding into evolving their offering to offer sales online and achieve revenue streams through those offerings.
The rise of DevOps is also having a big impact on the managed infrastructure sector.
Yeah, so with the advent of DevOps, that's been a big change in the industry, particularly in the software trend. But you could also look at that from an infrastructure perspective. Customers are expecting us to deploy infrastructure as code in the same method. So the access to skills is a lot different to traditional hardware support, physical on-premise environments. So the skill sets that are required are things like your SRE engineers, your site reliability engineers, to ensure reliability of these services. Being in the cloud, it's quite a lot easier than on-premise to apply that kind of methodology. So we're looking to resources that are SRE engineers, DevOps engineers, and people that can develop code. It is really one of the primary skill sets that customers are asking for. With that comes a huge challenge. The market with COVID became very restricted, and the access to resources was very difficult. So customers who might have previously in-housed their support and maybe had those skill sets internally.
For Brennan IT Managing Director Dave Stevens, the significant trend in the managed infrastructure services sector is the move to the cloud with specific transition of applications and the continuing long-term decline in server numbers.
The key trends in this area is certainly around that transition that many clients are doing to the cloud. And they're really not picking up workloads from either internal VMware environments or virtual environments or hosted virtual environments and moving them to Azure or AWS or others. They're really transitioning their applications. And what we're seeing is really I don't want to say the death of the server, but we're seeing the number of servers that we manage drop by significant percentages. 5 years ago, we would have managed 5,000 servers in the fleet. And now we're seeing that down by many thousands. So in terms of general infrastructure managed services, that is something that is going to continue. It'll never go to zero, of course, but it'll become an increasingly smaller part of what clients need us to do. Alternatively, clients are really looking for us to manage those applications much more effectively. So they don't just want us to manage the underlying infrastructure because that's managed by the application provider. They actually want us to manage the application itself. And there might be underlying kind of database, connectivity that we need to manage and monitor. There'll be data integration, either into a data lake or into other applications that we need to monitor. And they want us to they're expecting us to be more expert within the application. So clients are still looking for a one throat to choke, but it's including the application now, not just the infrastructure services.
That was Dave Stevens, Managing Director of Brennan IT, who along with S5 Technology Group Managing Director Guy Coble, Adam Williams, Managing Director of Mammoth Media, and Arinco Principal Consultant Managed Services Mitch Bagan, have described the key drivers and opportunities they see in the managed infrastructure services market.